Hey guys, and welcome back to the Spruce and Linen channel. I'm Janelle, and today is an exciting day. We are going to do a dollar store DIY weaving. Now, I totally understand that if you've never woven before, or if you're on a tight budget, you really want to try weaving, but you don't want to necessarily invest in some of the more high quality tools and materials that are out there. So I wanted to show you how you could make your very own little mini woven wall hanging for under $20. So let's get started. All right, so first things first, we're gonna go over all the materials that I got from the dollar store, and then I do have a few pieces of equipment and tools that I already had, but you probably have something similar at home. So the first thing you're gonna need is this wood canvas. This is gonna be for our frame for the loom. This was $3 and it's a 12 by 16. I got this pack of dowels that we're gonna hang the weaving from, so you can make quite a few weavings with this pack. I have a piece of cardstock. You only need one, but it'll probably come in a pack. I found this cotton, I think it's cotton, it doesn't actually say, kind of macrame style rope. We have some jute twine that we're gonna use for our warp. And then I grabbed a few different yarns. This is sort of a plush, almost that blanket material yarn. And then this is just an acrylic nice blue yarn. And then they even had this roving. This is polyester, 90% acrylic, 10% wool. So there is a tiny bit of wool, but this is gonna behave differently than merino wool. But we're gonna use that, and then we're going to use these screws. My dollar store didn't have any like finishing nails, so if yours does, I would suggest using nails and a hammer, but I'm going to use screws and a drill. So, all right, so we're gonna clear off this table and we're gonna start making the frame loom. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're gonna actually cut the canvas off of the frame. So that's where your X-Acto knife is gonna come in. You can get these at the dollar store. I didn't get this one from there, and I'm gonna cut on the outside of where the staples are. So you can toss that canvas aside, and I am going to try to just I'm gonna leave the staples in, and I'm gonna pull off the excess canvas. All right, so now that we have this empty frame, we're going to put in either your screws or your nails into the frame at a 1/4 inch apart. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that, and I'll be back with you in a second. I'm just gonna quickly explain to you how I made this loom. So we cut off the canvas, and then all I did was make a line. You can see these aren't perfectly straight, and that doesn't matter. And then I spaced out my screws a 1/2 inch. Now, I would highly suggest that if you can find little nails, that's gonna work a lot better for you. My wood on this canvas frame really started to split as I put the screws in. But again, I just really wanted to keep this to all dollar store stuff, so that's what I used. So this will still work. It just might not last forever, that's all. All right, so we're gonna quickly cut fringe for our weaving. So I'm actually gonna turn this around, and I'm gonna use this frame to wrap our fringe. I'm gonna use 3 different things. I'm gonna use this plushy blue yarn, I'm gonna use this sort of macrame style cord, and I'm gonna use this, so that we're gonna kind of have a mixed fringe. All right, so first up is this thin yarn. I'm gonna use 2 strands per clump of fringe. So I'm gonna wrap this around 30 times. All right, so then you're going to, I got quite a knot here. You're just gonna cut this off of this frame, making sure you're only cutting through 1 layer of your wrapped fringe. And then we're just going to simply set this aside for now while we wrap the rest. So next I will do this, and this time we're just going to wrap it around 15 times. And then we're going to do the same with the cotton macrame cord. Okay, so now we have all our fringe cut, and we're ready to start warping the loom. So we're gonna use this jute twine to do that. And the first thing I'm going to do is just tie an overhead knot so that we have a loop. This is a lot stiffer of a material than I would normally use, and it's a lot thicker, but it totally works for this. It's just going to be a bit of a bulkier weaving. And then all you're going to do is start wrapping this twine around the screws. I have wrapped my warp so it has 30 strings. So if you want to follow this exactly, you can kind of just stop this here and look at what I've done. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 15 screws at the top and 16 screws at the bottom. So then you're going to leave yourself a little bit of a tail, cut that off, and then you're just going to knot this to the last screw here. Making sure this is as tight as you can get it. Okay, so I wasn't able to get this last string very tight, so I'm just gonna go back a little ways and just kind of try to even out that slack, just so it's not too wonky going across. So this is where your cardstock is going to come in. I am going to just fold mine. So you kind of want to decide how big your weaving is going to be. So let's see here. I want my weaving to end pretty close to the top. So right now our width is 7.5. So let's try to make the weaving part about 7.5 as well. So that means I'm going to want my cardstock to be around 4 to 5 inches. So let's just, basically I'm going to just fold this to about here. So that's just about 5 inches. And then I'm just going to fold this back on itself. Now we're going to do what's called a plain weave to put this in, and that's just going over one string and under one string all the way across. I'm actually going to start though under one string and just go all the way across and get this cardstock in here. This will come out at the end, so if you're thinking this is really weird that you're putting paper in your weaving, don't worry, it'll come out at the end. Alright, so you're just going to scooch that to the very bottom. And then we're going to take one of our yarns. I'm going to use the fluffy blue yarn. And we're just going to go ahead and do, let's say we'll do 4 rows. So you just need a little bit of yarn. Now, I am going to use my tapestry for my tapestry needle for the purpose of this video, but you can definitely just go across like this with your fingers if you don't have a tapestry needle, or maybe you have like a darning needle or something like that that you could use for the same purpose. But I'm going to go ahead and use this tapestry needle just to make this more efficient for you to watch. So we're doing plain weave again, but we're going the opposite of what we did on this one. So you can see here the paper is under this string, so I want to go over the next. And then with this little tail here, we're just going to tuck it back under a few strings. I'm just going to pull that a little bit tighter. And then you're going to create just like this little bit of a hill. And I'm going to use my weaving comb, but you could use any kind of wide tooth comb that you have. That'll work as well. Or a fork or your fingers. There's lots of different options. All right, so now we are ready to tie on our fringe. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take one of each of the thicker yarns that we chose, And then I'm going to take 2 of the thinner ones. Now try to line them all up so they're about even. And then we're going to tie what is called a raya knot. So each little grouping of fringe is going to go around 2 of your warp strings. So just to clarify all of this, your warp strings are the strings going vertical, the ones that are tied to your loom. Your weft strings are the ones that you're weaving in horizontally. So for a raya knot, you're going to use 2 strings, warp strings at a time. You're going to hold it like this, try to find the center. You're going to take the right side and wrap it around that right string, bring it back all the way around, and then the same on the left. So you're going to take this grouping and wrap it around the left. So then you're going to pull it up, make sure that your fringe is kind of even, and just pull that down. So that's where this cardboard comes in, or paper, or whatever you chose to put in there, so that you can really pull down on that and it's not going to distort your weaving. Okay, so we're going to just repeat that all the way across. Now that we have all our fringe on, we are ready to get started weaving. So that's where we're going to break into this roving. So I'm going to open this up. So this is going to be a very, very simple, quick weaving so that you can just get a hang of this. Oh, and they've knotted it. That's interesting. This knot is so tight, I actually don't even think I can get it open. So I'm going to cut it open. Interesting. Okay, so we're just gonna take a healthy length of this. I'm gonna do like 2 arm lengths, and I'm gonna snip it off. And I'm gonna teach you what is called a sumac stitch. So that's that beautiful braid look that you'll see on a woven wall hanging. So this might even be a little bit excessive, so maybe we'll just, yeah, we're just gonna go take 3 lengths of your weaving and snip that off. All right, so we're gonna do a sumac stitch. So what you're gonna do is you're going to wrap the opposite direction that you're moving in. We're gonna go over 2 and we're gonna skip 2. I will show you as I go. So we're going over 2, you're gonna wrap it underneath those 2 from right to left and pull that down. Then we're gonna skip the next 2, and then we're gonna go to these 2. And you're gonna just kind of let this roving twist as you go across. And again, just continuing on with the over 2 and skipping 2. So we took a little more than we needed, but you do want a tail on each end. And now we're going to take another length. Let's try 2.5 lengths now. And we're gonna go the opposite direction. So I'm going to wrap from left to right now and leave yourself a tail and just go back across the exact same way. All right, now just so we keep a good structure with our weaving, we're gonna do a few more rows of plain weave in between each row of this sumac stitch. So I'm just gonna do another 4 to 5 rows of plain weave. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and repeat this. So I'm going to just really push this yarn down because I kind of want these rows of sumac stitch to be touching, but we need those other stitches there just to help with the structure of the weaving. All All right, so we're at another row of the plain weave. So we're just kind of, as you can see, repeating the same thing over and over again. So I'm gonna do 4 more rows of plain weave and then 2 more rows of my sumac. Hopefully that'll fit. And then we'll try to get some more plain weave in there. I'm just gonna actually try to tuck this down a little bit more and just push it all really tight together. We are now done weaving the whole front, so we're gonna flip it over to the back and we're gonna finish up the back before we get this off the loom. So all of these little tails from the roving we're gonna do first, and all you're gonna do is you're gonna tuck that in under those strings you skipped on the front, not pulling too tight on the sides. And I'm just gonna go under a couple rows there. And that's plenty. So we'll do the same with all of the roving ends. With your yarn ends, I'm just going to loop it around some of these warp strings and simply tie a knot. We would do this a little bit different if we had more stitching, but I'm trying to do this for you in a way that you need the least amount of tools possible to get this done. All right, so that's finishing the back. It's a bit bulky, but that's okay. That's why I trimmed all this really short. Just always be sure to not catch your warp strings there. All right, so we're almost done, you guys. We're gonna flip up all this fringe here. And actually all I'm going to do is we're gonna just cut this off the loom. So I'm gonna stay pretty close to the screws. Take out your piece of cardstock or cardboard. Gonna give these ends a little snip too. And then you're just going to pull it right off the loom. You want to keep the loops on the other end. You can set your loom aside. And I'll flip it this way so you can see. All we're going to do is go ahead and tie knots under here. And just make sure they're nice and tight. Normally I would do overhead knots, which you can do if you have enough of a length here. They're just a little harder with this kind of thread to get them tight. All right, so once you have these knots tied, you're just gonna cut them short. Don't cut them too short. You don't want them to come undone. Then we're gonna go to the top, and this isn't a lot of room to tie knots, so I think all we're gonna do, since the yarn is nice and it's kind of sticking to this warp string really nicely, we're just gonna grab one of our dowels, and you're just going to simply put the dowel through these loops. You can comb out that fringe with your fingers. And what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to try to get it perfect on the bottom, but I am just going to go across and try to get the fringe just a little bit more even. I need to tighten up my scissors a little bit. You can even do that by laying it down, combing it out. And again, just kind of trying to get it decently even. If you wanted to steam it out, get it perfectly straight, and really try to cut it perfectly, you can do that as well. We have a few videos here on the YouTube channel that shows you how to do that. All right, so now we have this pretty even. I'm gonna just clean up my little mess here. And then I'm gonna grab that warp string again. So this is our, you could use the yarn for this too. And I'm going to just wrap this around. We're gonna do the hanging string. I'm gonna wrap mine around 3 times. I'm gonna tie a knot. Trim off a little bit of the excess. And then you can just kind of decide how long you want your hanging string to be. So I'm gonna go about that much. Figure out how much I need to tie this off. Pull that pretty nice and tight. Tie a knot. Cut off that little bit of extra. And that is it, you guys. So this is our little super cheap, fast, easy woven wall hanging. If you've never woven and you're just wanting to give it a try without investing too much money, this is the way to go. You have a cute little wall hanging at the end, and I think this turned out pretty great for everything coming from the dollar store. So if you get hooked on weaving, you can always check out our other weaving videos, and we even sell some weaving kits and other weaving tools. If you like this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and click the bell to get notifications when I post new videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Welcome back to the Spruce and Linen channel. I'm Janelle, and that was a really slow intro. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Spruce and So I'm just going to explain how I made this little loom. So you shall use, goodness. Okay, the battery died. I didn't notice, so hopefully that top down goodness is good.